Hello, welcome to the Word Café podcast. This podcast has been designed with curated content that centers on the power of words. Can we really do anything without speaking? Can we really do anything without the agency of words? Yes, that is what this podcast is all about. And I am your host, Amakri Isoboye, your neighborhood word trader. I believe in the power of words, for it is the unit of creation. I trade in words to profit my world. Hello, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to the Word Café podcast. I'm so excited being here with you in the studio. Yes, this is my second outing, and I am not alone in the studio today. I know you're seeing a face. You're wondering, who is this beautiful lady on set with me? Well, don't worry. We'll get to hear from her and know her more. But you know what we do in the Word Cafe. We are all about words here, all about words. We believe in words. Why? Because it is the unit of creation, the power that drives our essence. Words. Yes, I have with me on set a doctor. Yes, I brought a doctor for you. She is a consultant psychiatrist. What's she doing on set today? Don't worry, you get to hear. She is, let me just introduce her, then I'll let her in to do the other bit of introduction. Dr. Nona Joyce Ededki. The first time I heard her voice and I saw her face, I was like, wow, the voice and the face. The voice sounds younger to me, honestly. She looks like one 15 years old, don't mind me. Dr. Joyce, you're welcome to the Word Café podcast. Oh, now I give all to you. Go ahead. Let us know, who is Dr. Joyce Nona Ededki. Let's hear from you, Dr. Joyce.
Thank you, Amakri. Thank you for having me on your show today. My name is Dr. Joyce Nona Ededki, and I live in the United Kingdom. I work as a consultant psychiatrist. Yes, I treat people who have mental health problems, and I'm also a lay preacher with the United Reformed Church.
All right. That word, each time I hear you say that word, a lay preacher, I try to what does she mean by that? Can you just give us more insight to that? A lay preacher, let's understand that.
Okay, I mean, it's a kind of vocation if you're interested in ministry and you don't really have the time to go into full-time ministerial school, go through university to get theology degree and all of that. So you go through this course where they kind of teach you the basics and they put you in the grinding to know how to do it, how to preach, how to do everything that an ordained minister does in essence, except that, you then need to have if you want to become ordained, you have to go in and do further training. Yeah. That's what it is. Yes.
Oh, wonderful. So more or less, you are a preacher.
Yes, yeah.
You are a preacher. Thank you for that. All right. A Word Cafe is all about words. That's why we're here. And we want to look at the scientific aspects of words. That's why we have Dr. Joyce on set with us tonight. So, she's going to help us navigate this labyrinth we call the mind. How does it work? The mind and words. Dr. Joyce, can you just take us on this journey? How do we colorate the two of them, the mind and words?
All right. Okay. Like I told you earlier, I work as a consultant psychiatrist, and the bread and butter of what I do every day is to do what we call a mental state examination. What is a mental state examination? It's about, having a chat with somebody to make sense of what their problem is, and then establish diagnosis. So in this mental state examination, I'm looking at everything about you, how you are, how you are interacting, your body language, and particularly what you are saying. So how you are saying it So your words become very important to me, because as you're talking, I'm actually doing an analysis of what's going on in your mind. And that will direct, the questions I'm going to be asking you step by step by step. So when you ask how the mind processes words, it is about how the human mind actually enables you to make sense of what you are hearing, and then be able to reciprocate and respond appropriately. Now, in the brain, there is a mind-body connection, as you know. In the brain, there are centers in the brain that are responsible for our words, our speaking. There are centers in the brain that are responsible for our ability to understand what is spoken. Does that make sense? So I could do this analysis, from what you're saying. I could do the analysis from what you have written as well. So it could be from your email messages or in your letters. I'm kind of analyzing it. What is this person trying to say? Is the person communicating effectively? Am I able to understand the message that they have for me? And importantly, is the message relevant to the questions I've asked? Do you see all the analysis I'm going through in my consulting room? So those are the things that I do as a consultant psychiatrist. So when you ask how the mind processes words, I will tell you that the words are actually vehicles. They are vehicles to express the energy that is happening in the mind of an individual, and gives me.
Correct you there. Yeah.
Yes.
Dr. Joyce, if I get it correctly there, is a vehicle that expresses. So more or less, our essence is expressed through the agency of words.
Absolutely. That's it, So what you say enables me to understand what is going on in your mind. Do you understand? So the words that you speak, you can tell me, well, what about people who cannot speak? That's why I said also, if they can write, So sometimes I see patients who can speak, then they write. I give them a piece of paper and they write. So we can do that kind of a thing.
So both written and oral, more or less, spoken words and written words.
Written, absolutely.
We can deduce our personality from these two approaches. Am I correct?
Yeah. There is a composite, actually. So the words that you're speaking is not just ordinary words. I'm also exploring the emotions that are attached to these words. So when the words are being said, I'm also analyzing, what is the emotion? What is the undertone emotion here? Is it that of somebody who is anxious? Is it that of somebody? So I can tell some of those things from just the way somebody is talking. So the words are powerful. They enable other people to understand what is going on the inside of us. And that's why sometimes we ask people, yes?
No, go on. Finish your statement.
Yes. So sometimes we ask people, I can't understand you. Can you rephrase, for example? Or you aren't making sense to me. So the words are vehicles to enable communication. And this communication could be in terms of what's going on inside of us, communication as to what we want, communication as to our displease, communication about any situation at all. It could be you telling me, oh, I have a complaint. Do you understand what I'm saying? So words are powerful. They are vehicles that enable others to understand what's going on in your mind. And like I said, yes, it can come out in words. It can come out in written, how you write. What is you writing? Is it making sense? And more importantly, how are the words being said?
So if I deduce from everything you have said now, just summarizing it more or less, words are the vehicle that expresses who we really are. When you were talking, you went into the aspect of emotion, and what just came to my mind was emotional intelligence. So how do we correlate that with what you just said now? emotional intelligence and our reality based on words.
Okay. Now, I mean, like I was telling you, I mean, words also communicate. I mean, let me give a typical example of it. I mean, in everyday things we do at home, how do you express yourself to your spouse? It is about using words, isn't it? Oftentimes, it's about the body language, but oftentimes there are words that are also embedded in that communication. Okay, so emotional intelligence, you were asking me, what is emotional intelligence? It is a form of intelligence that has to deal with emotions. Now, the first question you asked me is, what are emotions? So emotions, they are forces, they are energy. They are energy.
Forces.
Yes. Yes, it's a force, it's an energy that you as a person experience on the external, in your conscious mind. Now, in your mind, you have the conscious aspect and then you have the unconscious aspect. Okay. Now, the conscious aspect is the aspect that drives your everyday thinking, your everyday memory, your everyday logical thinking. It is bound within time. And your unconscious mind, on the other hand, is the aspect of you that is not readily available to you as a person. Oftentimes, it comes awake when you are in a semi-sleepy state. We call it hypnotic.
That's your unconscious now, you mean?
Unconscious mind, yes.
Okay.
So that aspect is not readily, it's not bound by time. But the thing about it is, most of the time, our unconscious mind drives the conscious mind. Did you get that?
It's not bound by time.
It is not bound by time.
The time, it drives the conscious. The unconscious drives the conscious mind. More or less saying like the unseen drives the seen.
The seen, absolutely. And the interesting thing about this is that the unconscious mind is so powerful. It is that's the creative aspect of the human being. Okay. Now, the unconscious mind, when your mind thinks about things.
Dr. Joyce, slow. You just said something so powerful. The unconscious mind, many a times, that is where creativity
lies,
comes from, or dwells. So if you are not aware of the unconscious, you can never create anything, so to speak.
No. Now I take you straight to the book of Genesis here. In Genesis, God, it says in the beginning there was, the earth was without form and it was void. That was what was being seen, okay? It was without form and void. However, just listen to this. However, God had something in his mind which was orderly, which was beautiful. And he spoke it into being. Hello? Now,
I can hear you.
Yes, he spoke it into being, saying, let there be this, let there be this. It was in accordance to what was already in his mind.
Whoa.
And at each stage, I have a lot of this aspect in my book, actually. I actually dwelt a lot on this because we're talking about the mind here.
Yes.
The mind of the human being is powerful. It is powerful beyond measure. Okay. Now, it has the ability for you to look inside yourself. You have the ability to look on the outside of yourself. Now, I'll go back to the topic you asked me about, which is emotional intelligence. Let me not go too much into the mind today. Now, the emotional intelligence is the capability of an individual to be aware of their own emotions and also being able to be aware of other people's emotion. It is powerful. It is essential. It is very essential for successful relationships, irrespective of the setting. It could be at the workplace. It could be within the family. It could be within mother and children. between spouses, between any form of relationship whatsoever. So there are two forms of it. You have the intra-emotional intelligence that is within yourself, when you are in tune with yourself, in tune with your emotions and your feelings. Now, remember I told you that emotions are forces that are subjective and are about something outside of the individual. You kind of have the emotions about something. Now, the feelings on the other side is the force that is deep within your mind that resonates the emotion. Does that make sense?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello, nerds. Come listen to the History Nerds United podcast, and let's make history fun again. We interview today's best authors, whether they are established Pulitzer Prize winners or someone debuting their first book. Let us show you that history is not a boring class you took in high school, but a place where the best stories come from. And we don't just cover history. We also love to chat about true crime, biographies, memoirs, and so much more. So head on over to History Nerds United and let us introduce you to your new favorite book and learn the story behind the story.
History Nerds United.
Oh, Dr. Joyce, you're blowing my fuse here. But let me just, before we get back to you now, if you're joining us, you're with us on the Word Café podcast. We're talking about the mind and words. Please go ahead. If you have questions, you can drop them in the chat box. The comment box. We're going to give you that privilege, as in give Dr. Joyce the privilege, to answer them. Dr. Joyce, back to you.
Yes. All right. So, like I said, whilst the emotions are about the force, the energy that is subjective and is associated with objects on the outside in the objective space, the feelings are the resonating force in your mind. Does that make sense?
Oh, Dr. Joyce, you just blew another fuse.
So you have the feelings, which are more, it's a resonance. In other words, it's actually a reflection of what that energy is that is with emotions, but rather what it is in your mind as an individual. So you have the feelings inside and then you have the emotions. So that's why, the aspect of psychology that actually deals with this is cognitive behavioral therapy, where they tell you your thoughts actually affect your feelings, that affects your emotions, affects your behavior subsequently. And the science behind all of these is the science that underpins the human behavior. It underpins the human personality. It underpins, that's why the the NICE guidelines, they call it in the United Kingdom, they kind of give us guidelines as to every area of therapy. It describes CBT as the panacea for most, I would say use the word most, mental health disorders. So it is this science of the thoughts being connected to the feelings, to the emotions, to the behavior that drives the lot of things that we experience. And also, yes.
Go on. Finish your thought. Yeah. I'll follow. Finish it.
And also in the same light, when we're talking about therapies, we also look in that way as well. I tend to do a lot of this every day in my work. But the aspect that actually fascinates me as a person is the fact that the human being is tripartite. You have the body, you have the spirit, you have the soul. Now, the secular therapies out there, they kind of focus on what happens in the mind, the soulish end, and the body. But they actually don't explore what happens in the spirit of the man. And when we talked about the unconscious mind earlier, I told you that's the aspect that is not particularly available to you in your everyday wakeful hours. Now, it is the aspect of your spirit that we are talking about lies in the realms of this unconscious. And that's why it's so powerful for you to be able to shut down sometimes what's going on from the outside, because the windows to your mind are through your senses. What you see, what you smell, what you taste, what you feel, they're all the things.
I like that statement, the windows of your mind. Sorry, I know you're just on fire, as in you just want to go and go and go and go and go.
I know.
But I have to tell you, there was this thought that struck me sometime. As in, I was just meditating, so to say, and this thought came to me: tears. Why is it called tears? You know, the word tear is like you putting apart a piece of cloth or a piece of whatever, you put apart. So I'm like, why is it called tear? Is it because it comes from the deep recesses of our soul and it's finding a way to escape, so to say, and boom, it tears open something and that liquid comes out? And when you said that the windows, that thought just came back to me. Go ahead, Dr. Joyce.
Yes. So I mean, you described tears, and I remember I told you about the feelings. They are the resonating aspect, the resonating force to the emotions that happen within our mind. Now, when you're talking about tears, oftentimes you have tears of joy. Sometimes you have tears from deep emotional pain. Now, when those feelings, like you did describe, when those feelings trigger the mechanisms deep within you, immediately messages are sent to your brain. And what happens is there is what we call cell-to-cell communication. Hello? Okay. Cell-to-cell communication. A set of physiological reactions take place and it affects each cell. It's just like this. The simplistic way to describe it is, when you feel a pain or a memory brings on a pain from the past or something, immediately there is a message that is being communicated from one cell to every cell of your body. And that's why you often find that the mood will just change. The mood changes because this information has been disseminated right round and say, look, there is something that is making us feel very, very unhappy here. Hello? And that's very key, the cell-to-cell communication. This cell-to-cell communication happens through chemical processes. It also happens through, electrical impulses. So the electrical impulses could jump from one cell to another because we are living cells. Every cell in our body is living. And that is what living cells do. They respond to situations in their environment. So if there's something that brings about threat, immediately, it's like the way I can describe it is when a nation is being threatened from externally, immediately the government will call on the soldier, the army, and say, please, we need you to go and maintain the external integrity as well as the internal integrity of the country to prevent invasion of the enemy. So it's in the same way. Yeah. So the natural emotions, we as human beings, we have over 34,000 emotions. However, the science has been able to locate only few. And there are some across social cultural settings, whether you are green or yellow or Asian or white, we have some basic emotions that we all experience. Emotion of sadness, for example, emotion of disgust, emotion of happiness, emotion of enthusiasm. As for example, you can see I'm really enthusiastic about this because this is my bread and butter. This is what I love to do every day.
Yeah.
So you see, you're able to tell, for example, the emotions from the individual. So remember I told you it's a force, it is an energy that's kind of directed onto something that's external. But however, the feelings is the resonating force that you feel in your mind. And when we talked about emotional intelligence, we talked about the emotional intelligence intra and extra. Remember? The intra within and then the extra outside. Being able to look at the emotions of people.
What would your counsel be on meditation? How do I use meditation to empower myself? The place of meditation.
Okay. Now, when I talked about the mind earlier on, I told you that we tend to operate a lot within the conscious mind. A lot of us are not even aware that we have an unconscious mind. The only times we become aware of our unconscious mind is, for example, we've had a problem bugging our minds. We've been thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking about the problem. And sometimes we go to sleep and suddenly we wake up in the morning and we have the exact solution in our hands. Now, what has happened is your unconscious mind, look, I told you, it controls what happens in the conscious. It sieves out the predominant thoughts in your mind, in your conscious state. So it now dwells on it and works it out for you. It helps you to solve the problem. That is what tends to happen in those eureka moments when we say, oh, I got the answer now. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Light bulb.
So, exactly. Mm-hmm. So what happens? Like I told you earlier, the windows to your mind are your senses. What are your senses in constant with? They're in constant with your environment. Now, today, tell me, the information overload that is out there, you're constantly seeing things. Yeah. And because there's too much information coming in, your brain goes into a sieving process. It tries to, delete some, doesn't pay particular attention to some, just to reduce the quantity of information that is hitting your mind. Hello, can you get me? Are you getting my drift?
I'm feeling your vibes. Go on.
So what now happens is, for you to be able to get in touch more with that creative unconscious aspect of you, you need to dull down, you need to quieten your mind. Because the stimulation coming from the external is so much. It's not, you never have time to just kind of chill. So mindfulness is one key way for you. Yes. All that it means is being mindful of the now, being mindful of what's going on inside of you, being mindful of what's going on the outside of you. And it's a very simple act. I kind of teach it in my mind workout gym sessions. I call it the recharging battery. One day we're going to go into that, but it is a quick way for you to.
Sure, we will.
Yes, you kind of just quieten down your mind. You're able to, get into that your unconscious. Remember, I told you your unconscious mind drives. It is your creative seat. It drives, your conscious mind. But if you do not intentionally assess it, you tend to just find out it's a very gentleman. It's just quiet, allowing you just go on with all the things. And the sad thing is, the interpretation of a lot of things brings on stress in the conscious mind. So you need to be able to explore quietening your mind through mindfulness, and sometimes also through meditation, to be able to assess your unconscious mind.
Whoa. You have just downloaded huge data, as in data to us now.
I know.
I got from what you just said now. Mindfulness, being intentional. The unconscious drives the conscious. So you have to be mindful of that. In being mindful of that, you have to be intentional.
Absolutely.
You have to be intentional. It's just like speaking to yourself. Just like what that says about David when he said, "My soul, why art thou troubled? Put your trust in the Lord."
Now, that particular verse, the way I kind of teach it during the mind workout gym sessions is this: if David was not in tune with his spirit being restless and his soul being at unrest state, he wouldn't be able to speak to the soul to say, "Why are you so unrestful?" Does that make sense?
It does.
So this is the exercise of meditation. It is about looking inwards to be able to say, what is going on here? Now, it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of being intentional. It takes a lot of being aware, being in tune with what's going on in your body. Some people, they just don't know. They only know that, oh, I'm feeling anxious. Oh, I'm feeling anxious. But if they can just learn to understand their bodies better, they'll be able to pick on the early signs, the early trigger signs of anxiety, for example. Now, tell me, how do you feel anxious in your body? You feel tenseness then you become cranky. Probably you can't sleep. Your mind keeps going round like that. You're constantly thinking. So David recognized some aspects of this at some stage in his physical body, and he had to speak. You see, again, we're talking about the words coming in here, because he knew he had the power to speak to his soul to a state of subjection.
Yeah, you need to speak.
Absolutely, you need to speak. Now, the Lord made human beings with one mouth and two ears for a reason.
Tell me.
And do you know what? We listen so much to the inner talk as well as to the things that come out of our mouths. And that is why you need to be intentional about the words that you speak out of your mouth. Proverbs 4 and 23 and 24 talks about that. If you can just read it or put it in the chat, that would be helpful. Proverbs 4, verse 23 and verse 24.
A minute, let me get that scripture.
Yes.
Proverbs.
I'm not preaching here. I'm just trying to use, because you brought the scripture about David, talking about 23
Proverbs
and 24.
4, sorry, 23 and 24.
Yes, please. Yes.
Did you say 23 and 24?
Yes.
Okay, let me get it out for you. 1 minute. We're coming. It's getting really hot in here in the studio. If you're joining us, I have on set with me Dr. Joyce Nona Ededki, and we've been dwelling on the relationship between the mind and the word. She is a consultant psychiatrist, and she's been doing a lot here in the studio. And I read, it says here, guard your heart with all diligence.
Yes.
From it flow springs of life. Put away deception from your mouth. Keep your lips from perverse speech.
Good. Now, when we talk about froward mouth, is a mouth that just opens and speaks without anything called common sense. Blah, 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 blah. That is what it means about a froward mouth. Now, when you're using your mouth in such a way, your ears hear. And where does that feed back to? Your mind. For example, you will hear people often tell you, oh, I'm afraid I cannot give you this, or I'm afraid you're unable to do this. Hold on a second. You're constantly telling your mind you are afraid. What happens? Remember, I talked about cell-to-cell communication. The cells listen to, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid. What happens? They send the messages round. We are afraid, we are afraid, we are afraid, we are afraid. No wonder the person is riddled with anxiety. The words will speak their life. The words will speak, they should be wholesome. Philippians 4 and 8 talks about what those words, what the thoughts should be. Remember, when I started this podcast, I told you that when a patient comes to me and they are talking, I'm sitting down carefully listening to them. In my listening to what they are saying, I am also exploring what is going on in their thought processes, in their minds.
Okay.
Am I making sense here?
Yes, you are.
So when the scriptures tell you to guard your heart with all diligence, it means when it talks about heart here, it's talking about your mind. You need to be careful what goes into your mind. When garbage goes in, garbage comes out.
So
our words
it multiplies.
Absolutely. Our words are powerful. They do not only affect people from outside, they also affect us as human beings. So you hear the words you speak. And that's why there is this clear instruction. You have the ability to guard you have a gatekeeper. The gatekeeper allows who is worthy into your premises. So the same thing, you have the watch over your mind. You have the watch over what you hear, what you see, what you smell, because all these things, they work in an intricate, complex way to determine how we are becoming. At the end of the day, it is about how we are becoming. Scriptures say in the Proverbs,
how we are becoming. As
a man thinks in his heart, so is he. What are the thoughts you bear in your mind? Are these thoughts positive thoughts? Are they healthy thoughts? Are they thoughts that are negative and toxic? Yourself, they communicate with one another. They will pass the message one to another. And what happens? They begin to respond accordingly. So it's a complex thing, but it is important for us to be intentional. When you're watching, you're listening, sitting down there listening to the news, and it's one negative news to another negative news to another negative news. Before long, your thoughts are dwelling on the negativity that are abundant around you. I remember one time somebody gave me one CD. It was a Nigerian artist. I can't even remember the name of the artist, but I just liked the tune. And I was driving about 4 hours that particular day, so I just slotted in my car, and I listened to that music for the whole 4 hours. It was just on repeat. When I got home for the next 2 days, I was sleeping, and all I was hearing in my sleep was the music playing on.
I can imagine. Saturated your mind with it.
Exactly. So the things that you allow into your mind will influence your mind, will influence your thinking, will influence your feelings, will influence your emotions, will influence subsequently your mood and your behavior.
I like your submission here. But Dr. Joyce, for the want of time, we need to have you back in the Word Café, honestly, because 30 minutes, an hour is not enough. We need to create a series on this that you will come back and educate us more, talk about the mind, how it works, how our mind works with the words we speak and all that. Like we're literally coming to the gym. Where are you going? I'm going to the mind working gym. I want to go and walk on it. Or what mind workout gym, I beg your pardon. I'm going there. So before we leave, just tell us something about your book. I know you have a book.
Yes.
Tell us something about it.
I mean, it's been a desire of mine to kind of put a lot of these things in a book, and I've just been able to try and put my ideas. A lot of things I've been talking about here, how your mind works, how to maximize your mind, and I also do talked a little bit about what we do in the mind workout gym, and what's going to be happening over time is, like I said, this is the mind workout. It's going to be a series, so I'm going to have the mind workout gym, subsequent series talking about in detail the various aspects of the human mind and how it works, the spirit and how it works, and how you can also employ various strategies, to affect each aspect, each component of the human being, the body, the spirit, the soul, in order for you to have a wholesome, harmonious, I like to use the word harmonious.
I like that. It sounds like music.
In your ears.
Yeah.
So harmonious state. So when you have an harmonious state like that, you're peaceful. It doesn't matter what's going on the outside. You are cool, you are calm, you are calculated.
Homeostasis, more or less. I heard that word.
Absolutely.
And I heard it again today. It's just rhyming with what you just said now. Harmonious, homeostasis. You're just there in that. When I heard that word homeostasis and you repeated this harmonious, what came to my mind was that peace.
Peace.
And when the scripture talks about peace, nothing missed, nothing broken. Awesome. If
so
you're
you direct it from the inside. It doesn't matter what's happening on the outside. And that's why, people will ask you, how come you just, it's as if nothing is, you're not touched at all by what is happening. Like Jesus was sleeping in the storm, in the storm. He said, you care not that he perish. He was sleeping. It doesn't mean he enjoyed the presence of the Lord. It's a matter of you, managing your mind in a way that you are at peace, even when the external is in turbulence.
Turbulent.
Yes.
Wow. That's mic dropping. All right. If you're out there watching, listening, I'm in the studio with Dr. Nona Joyce Ededki, a consultant psychiatrist. We've been talking about the relationship between our mind and words. And for me, I believe in the power of words. Why? It is the unit of creation. That's what we do here in the Word Café podcast. Like I said, we're going to have Dr. Joyce come back here and share more with us on this. You can catch her on her Twitter feed, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all that on that particular name. At that particular name, Dr. Nona Joyce Ededki. Dr. Joyce, good to have you here. Good to have you here. But before we call it a day in the studio today or this evening, I just want to share one or two things with you, what we are doing here in the Word Café studio. Permit me to use that word, even though this is where we're having a podcast here. Sometime in April, let me put up this so that we see, we're having this celebration of words. These are my books, A Cocktail of Words came out sometime last year in December, and I have the sequel, The Color of Words, and my HRO notebook coming out in April. We'll be having celebration of words, in music and what have you. So I just want you to put it down somewhere because it promises to be wow. Dr. Joyce, any last words from you before we leave the studio?
I always tell people it's your choice to enjoy life no matter what. You can manage your mind. You can always make things better for yourself. You are not at the mercy of what's happening to you, but you have control. You have a mind that has great potential, and you need to maximize it. You need to look inwards and see how you can control your world. Thank you.
How you can control your world. I like that. I always say this about myself. I trade in words to profit my world. So your world lies within the words that you speak.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for coming around this evening on the Word Café podcast, Dr. Joyce. Like I said, you just have to come back again because we need more of this juice from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
People,
thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So if you see this broadcast as in a repeat broadcast or somewhere out there, please go ahead, drop a comment. You can follow us. Dr. Joyce is there. Amakri Isobe is there. We are there for you to help out. That's why we're here in the Word Café. Dr. Joyce, good to have you again.
Thank you.
All right. So we're leaving now and we're going to be back. Don't worry, with special package for you. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Dr. Joyce.
Bye.
awesome time it has been with you on the Word Café podcast today. Thank you for being there. You can catch me up on my social media handles, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all at Amakri Isoboye. Also, you can get copies of my books, A Cocktail of Words, The Color of Words, and my HRO notebook on Amazon and on Roving Heights online bookstores. You can also subscribe to my YouTube page at the same address. Yes, till we see you again. Bye for now.